Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Hello everyone and welcome to another AOR race. It is the PC GT3 League Tier 1 on Project Cars 2. It is the final race of Season 11. I feel like I said this every season, but it feels like it's just flown by and we're already here at round 10 out of 10 at Laguna Seca. A very hot evening around this twisty and challenging circuit. My name is Fisi and I am going to be calling the action around here today, along with, of course, the man, the myth, the Yorkie 065.
Hello guys, welcome to the stream. As Fizzy has said, the season has flown by and it is the last race of the season. We're here at the finale and we have ourselves a championship fight. We still got to crown a Drivers' Championship here in Tier 1, so we are going to be keeping an eye on that, and it is going to be between this man here, who we're currently watching at the moment, Leon the Sick One, and the car that is immediately following him currently on track, Jardier. It's between these two guys, 33 points in it, and I believe, if I'm correct, if Leon wins, Jardier needs 7th or higher to win
basically,
the championship?
Yeah, so basically if Leon wins this final race, which he really realistically needs to do to have a chance, knowing how fast Jardier is, Jardier needs... he cannot finish below 7th then, to, if he wants to be the champion. Jardier, if he finishes 7th or above, he will win the championship regardless of what Leon does. But of course, if he has a slightly off day, if he has a bit of an incident somewhere, then and Leon actually does win the race, then Jardier needs to make sure at least doesn't drop below that 7th place, which is the key position to look out for in terms of Jardier's race tonight.
Yeah, well, Jardier was actually looking slightly off form last week. He started, I believe, 4th position and was kind of in and around 3rd for a while before having dropping back into 4th with CJB getting past him, and then there was a little bit of contact between the two of them. There was a slight incident and Jardier picked up damage from that. But in the second half of the race, after the pit stops, Jardier just didn't have the pace of the top 3 guys in front of him. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Jardier has managed to recover that form and see if he'll be back at the sharp end of the see if he's back at the sharp end of the field, and obviously he'll hope to be if he wants to give himself the best chance of winning the championship.
Indeed, and last week's result was actually the first time all season that Jardier's finished outside of the podium, crossed the line in 4th, and actually a post-race penalty for that incident with CJB, as that was taken to the stewards, dropped him down 1 further position down to 5th place. So I mean, based on all his results so far this season, you would expect him to finish above 7th here tonight, but of course it remains to be seen how high up he will be in qualifying, first of all, to give himself that good good position to start from to make that happen, and of course then he needs to stay out of trouble in the race. If he does that, he has a good chance of winning. Leon will do his best to put a pressure on. At the moment though, the main pressure has been put on by Jardier's own teammate here in qualifying, Mr. Van Ommen, sitting on provisional pole after the first run of flying laps.
Yep, and he's just lining himself up for another flying lap. We were just watching CJB just now. He's got himself a 1 grid place penalty, possibly for, I imagine, crossing the pit exit line. That's generally the kind of penalty that you get for doing that kind of thing. So he's actually gone and put himself up on pole. So currently he'll be starting in P2. Benazili's also got himself up at the sharp end of the field. Villalobos is running well. Just put himself
Times are dropping. Jardier is up to 2nd now. Times are just coming in second fast. 7/10 of 7,000ths of a second for Jardier, off being on provisional pole at the moment. Of course, with CJB's grid penalty, that means Jardier is actually on pole as he stands. As he has a massive slide back there, and Leon also goes back to the pit lane to recharge his batteries.
Yep, Jardier's done exactly the same. They've just come out right behind each other, line astern. We'll quickly look through some of the other drivers. So there's Mr. Van Ormen, who was holding pole position earlier before that influx of drivers came in and improved their lap times. Lagrom currently holding 7th with the Kuza in 8th. Dowking in his Lamborghini is holding 9th with 2 Desert Pack back in the Audi is there in 10th place. Shooter in his M6 is in 11th. Someone has just pumped in a decent time somewhere along the line. I think it wasn't Dowking, it was JK, sorry.
Oh, look at that! Mr. Van Ormen has got up to second place with exactly the same lap time as Jardier. To the thousandths of a second. As Benicili now goes provisional pole.
Yep, something else that we have, interestingly, in this final race as well, is we've got a few Ferraris. Just as a kind of a little bit of a test, just to see what their pace is. They're not going to be setting any valid lap times here in the qualifying session, so we're not going to get an idea as to what pace they do have from this session. But Zal is running a Ferrari, so is Andrex, and so is Mr. Speed Demon 91. Those 3 drivers are all running Ferraris. But yeah, let's jump back up. Mr. Villalobos has got himself up into 2nd place in that Z4. Very impressive. The Z4 should, well, as you can see, do pretty well around this circuit.
Yeah, I mean, Villalobos has had pretty decent season, sitting 8th in the championship. It's been once on the podium, that was round 2, so I'm sure he's looking to get back up towards those positions, and it's looking good at the moment in qualifying as the Lamborghini gets out of his way, coming down into that super tricky corkscrew, which is, you know, one of the most difficult corners in all of motorsport, really. Certainly one of the most unique corners. And Villalobos a little bit on the gravel there, actually, a bit on the sand coming through the final few corners, and that means he has bailed out on that lap attempt. But it's still time, 2.5 minutes to go for everyone to improve. Leon, the sick one, really needs to improve on his 7th place at the moment if he wants to really put that pressure on Jardier. At least, I would say that Leon kind of needs to start the race ahead of Jardier to have a realistic chance, and then of course hope for Jardier to have some issues. But yeah, Leon just needs to push on and see what he can do, as actually his teammate is close ahead of him on track and going off the track, very much off the track.
Yeah, he was diving well out of his way. Leon was flashing the lights, obviously wanting to get past and try and set a decent lap.
Yeah, Tepek getting a little bit desperate to not block his teammate. As Leon now starts what I guess will be his penultimate attempt. That's all he has time for at the moment.
That's if he's got the fuel, which he has. He's got 5.4 litres, so he should be able to easily do the 2 laps here. He'll be able to get a lap in, providing that he doesn't make any big mistakes, and then he'll have one more lap, one more attempt afterwards as well. Jardier has now got himself up onto pole position provisionally. Obviously, we still got just over a minute left in the session, so things could change. Benazidi seems to be on a flying lap. Villalobos is, I believe, not on a lap, judging by the way he took that corner, but he'll be starting his final lap. Now Dowking has gone and popped himself up into a provisional pole position. So
oh, look at that! By 4/10 of a second for Dowking.
Wow.
That is an incredible lap time.
Yeah, certainly has. Villalobos starting his lap. CJB, imagine, is on the lap as he's coming through turns 1 and 2. Jardier is in the pits. He's not going to be setting any more laps, so P2 is going to be the best that he can do. Villalobos has returned to the pits, so P4 is going to be the best for him. Benazili across the line is not going to improve, but he has now started his final flying lap. Leon's gone and popped himself up into 4th. He's got one more lap to try and get himself up ahead of Jardier.
He only needs a 10th of a second in order to go up to 2nd ahead of his championship rival Jardier. That is what he'll be pushing towards on this final lap. There is a little bit of traffic just ahead of him, another Lamborghini, who probably also is on a flying lap. You'd hope for Leon's sake that he's not that much faster, that he'll catch up to him by the end of the lap, but we'll have to wait and see. That Lamborghini actually aborts his run and gets out of the way. That will help Leon. As, I guess we can follow him towards the end. Of course, we need to keep an eye on a few other drivers as well. Van Ormen potentially on the lap, ADAs as well, and CJB. But Jardier's actually back on track, but he won't have time to settle the lap. Actually looks like he has some damage to his car. CJB now coming across the line. And he stays in P... Actually, no, he goes up to P3. The finish line was a little bit further along than I was expecting there, and that is very close behind Jardier as well. For CJB, impressive time for him. Mr. Venom then, next to cross the line. He stays in P7. And then, of course, we are waiting for Leon the Sick One. What will this run do for him? He's currently sitting provisionally 5th place on the grid. He needs just a 10th of a second to get himself up to 2nd ahead of his championship rival. What will this lap be? And it will be 2nd place! A 10th of a second faster than Jardier, nearly 3/10 of a second off Dalking's pole time, but Leon will be starting in 2nd ahead of Jardier in 3rd, potentially crucial for the championship.
Yep, Tapak's going to be the last man coming across the line. Touring seems to be just touring around the circuit, and everybody else has come back into the pits as well, so that should be qualifying complete.
Indeed, and what a session that was, constantly swapping laps towards the top of the table, but in the end it's Dalking who will take the pole position at a bonus point for this final round at Laguna Seca. Dalking is still looking for his first win in the league. He's had 2 second places in a row now. Will this finally be the one where he can take the race win? Then Liam the Sick One and Jardier, the 2 championship contenders remaining, starting from 2nd and 3rd out of CJB, Benny Seeley, Villalobos, Mr. Venom, Gamisuke, JK and ADAs in the top 10. Then Tudesapak, Nagram, Dakusa, Shooter, Rodders, TM Touring, Tapek, Lusty, Scott, and then the 3 Ferraris that are sort of test drivers here tonight. Speed Demon, Azal and Andrex.
Indeed. So here we are then with just our 2-minute period just before the start of the race, where the drivers get themselves all nicely ready and sorted for the race, sort out their pit strategies, double check that they've got the right car set up, loaded, and just prepare themselves both physically and mentally, making sure that they're comfortable in their chairs and they are set ready for what is going to be a 44-lap race round here at Laguna Seca. And as you can see, conditions slightly hazy at the moment, so track will be relatively warm. I doubt the guys will need to change tyres during this race, but they will need to make a mandatory pit stop regardless. So we'll probably see the guys do their usual stop in and around the halfway sort of mark.
Certainly. And it should be an exciting race. It usually is around Laguna Seca. Of course, it is one of those tight and twisted circuits which will challenge the drivers just by the fact that it's a tricky place to drive. Overtaking might be difficult, but in these GT3 cars, you never know. Overtaking could happen at the weirdest of places sometimes from these drivers. So I'm sure we're in for an action-packed race, and quite a few drivers very close on pace as well, if qualifying is anything to go by. And of course, 2 big stories, I would say, towards the front anyway. Leon versus Jardier. Will Leon, first of all, be able to stay ahead of Jardier in the race? And if so, will Jardier manage to stay out of trouble to finish above 7th, which is what he needs if Leon does get the win to clinch and secure that 3rd consecutive championship? And of course, the other story, can Dalking finally get a win?
Yeah, that'll be very, very interesting. So here we go then with our manual formation lap that the guys will be doing. So they won't be going racing upon the green light. Just waiting for those to go. The field will pause for a moment, and then Dalking will pull away, hopefully without stalling the car. There he goes. And the rest of the field will follow, and they'll travel around at a speed of about 80 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour. Just make sure that they keep the tires and brakes up to temperature. Then once they come just out of turn 9 after the corkscrew, they'll form up in a 2x2 formation, forming 2 lines, and the speed will be reduced down to 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers per hour. And then once they come out of the final corner, anywhere between the start of the, well, in and around the exit curb and the actual start-finish line itself, Dalking can floor the accelerator in one motion, and that will signify the start of the race. And from there, the guys will be going green, and our racing action will commence.
From there, hopefully, we will have some entertainment on our hands, and hopefully a clean start as well, of course. It's been 10 hours of racing so far this season, in 9 rounds, of course, with those 2 half-an-hour longer races that we've had, which means there's only 1 hour to go, Yoki. It's a little bit sad.
It is a little bit, but I imagine coming into the new year, 2019, we will have another GT3 season, which will be fantastic to commentate on, as we'll probably get a new influx of drivers being demoted down to Tier 2, and we'll have drivers coming up from Tier 2 to join Tier 1 and show us what they're really made of, and hopefully be nice and competitive. So here we are in our 2x2, ready for the race start.
Indeed, everyone just trying to collect their nerves as they come around the final formation lap corner. Getting ready to, well, Dalkin getting ready to just put his foot down whenever he feels like it, and everyone else getting ready to react to the race start. It's all down to Dalkin now to start a final round of Season 11, and here we go. Dalkin charging his way down to the first corner. Jardier will be, of course, on the inside of Leon the Sick One with that third place starting position on the inside line, and he is looking good at the moment. Leon desperately trying to hang on around the outside of the first couple of corners, but has to slot in behind his championship rival. Not an ideal start for Leon the Sick One. CJB in 4th place, and Benny Steele staying in 5th as well, just behind them. And it looks like a pretty clean start throughout the field. Everyone just following line astern in one massive train of 21 cars as they stream down. There's actually a car on the grass there. That's Mr. Van Ommen, I believe, who was a little bit in the gravel trap, and he managed to get it back on the circuit. As he's on the outside, has been forced a little bit in the gravel again. Man, with Mr. Van Ommen being bullied here a little bit in the start of this race, and he's down to 12th position. Nagrom ahead of him as well, putting a couple of tires in the gravel as they come towards the corkscrew for the first time. Will Van Ommen dare go up the inside and go side by side through here? No, he will not. Nagrom going a little bit deep and managing to collect the car, potentially giving Van Ommen a chance to get back at him. Certainly running very close to the back of him, but Nagrom does close the door in the end. There's a side by side going on actually for P10 just ahead as well, but that's sorted out at the penultimate corner. That was Benny Seeley and who was that in the pit lane? Oh, there's a battle into the pit lane. Van Ommen is charging up the inside there, as there's 3 cars in the pits already on the first lap.
Yep, this is quite an interesting strategy, because I think where they don't have to worry about changing tyres, but they have to make a mandatory pit stop, they're just diving into the pits, getting their mandatory pit stop done and out the way early, so they're in clear air. Obviously they're going to have to work their way through the field, but it does take them out of that element of being stuck in traffic quite heavily for the first couple of laps. So this could be some strategic play by a number of these drivers to try and leapfrog some others. Jumping back up to the front of the field though, obviously the guys having a very clean start throughout the field. A couple of guys running a little bit deep and a little bit wide, but there wasn't any contact that we saw between the cars. But Jardier, obviously starting in 3rd position, has got himself up into 2nd, so an ideal start for him. Leon the Sick One is up there just behind at the moment in that green Lamborghini. He'll be looking to try and pressurise Jardier to see if he can take that 2nd position back. And obviously Dalkin will be wanting to try and rump away and extend his lead in this early stage.
Indeed he does, but jumping away from Jardier is not exactly an easy task, as CJB in 4th position going into the pit lane, which is very interesting. I'm wondering if he feels like he has some kind of pace advantage on the top 3 and actually trying to get them on the strategy, but I'm a little bit surprised, because he was keeping up well with the top 3 without really getting held up from what it looked like, but he will also go for that early pit stop strategy then and see how that works out for him, as the rest of the field comes charging through down the main straight with Tapek now into the first corner. It seems to have spread out a little bit throughout the field. No super intimate battles, but I'm sure that's gonna change as the race goes on. Nice couple of trains going on through the field at the moment, but there's a clear gap forming from 3rd now and down to Villalobos in 4th.
Yep, just jumping up to aid the Ace and 2 Desert Packers. I believe that they have just swapped positions. 2 Des running pretty well in that Audi. Obviously, yet to see what the Ferraris are really doing at the moment. Andrax has managed to get himself up into 15th. Zhao is up into 16th. And Speed Demon's still down in 20th. I think he may be one of the pitters that we've had so far. But obviously, the guys, or a number of guys making pit stops early, are obviously going to have to try and work their way back up through the field. And obviously have to contend with this traffic at some point, especially if they choose to stay out and not take their pit stop relatively early, like some of those guys have chosen to do. So,
yeah, there's another car in the pits back there, I think, as well. That's Team Touring from 10th position, going for that early stop start as well. Tapek, Leon's teammate, is going to follow on the same run. So several drivers going for that early start. Of course, they're going to meet each other on track then, and sort of, if they're looking to get out of traffic, it might not work out for them because there's so many people who have now chosen that same strategy. CJB, who was a lead car, was done early pit stop. He's only 8 seconds off Zal, who is at the back of the main non-pitter pack at the moment. So, you know, it won't be too long if they've got a really good pace before they actually get back into the traffic again. So I'm questioning if this strategy really is going to work with early pit stop, especially around the track like Laguna Seca, but we're going to have to wait and see exactly how they're going to do.
Yeah, I imagine these 3 guys here at the front are probably just going to continue to stay where they are. I doubt that they're going to make a pit stop early. Leon, the sick one, would probably be the only person considering it, but obviously he needs to make sure that if he is going to make a stop, he's not coming out in traffic. I just brought up the track map for you there, Fizzy, so you should be able to see the field spread of the guys. You probably see a pack of cars slightly further down the field, which should be the guys who have made their pit stops. Andrex is the last guy at the moment in 14th place who has yet to make a pit stop. Everyone else behind him has done so already, so that'll be interesting as we're seeing Dalking running a little bit deep there, presenting Jardier with a little bit of an opportunity to have a look alongside coming out of turn 2, the Andretti hairpin, coming into turn 3 now, coming through. It seems like Dalking has managed to recover, but that's bunched the top 3 up a little bit more, and they're all running relatively close. Leon the sick one actually very close to the back of Jardier there, but not really with any real opportunity to try and force his way past.
Yeah, this is certainly boding well for a race-long battle between the 3 top drivers of season 11, Dalking, Jardier, and Leon. Not necessarily in that order throughout the whole season, but at the moment in the race, Dalking with the upper hand, looking for that first race win in the league. For him, he's been in the lead in a few races previously in the season. It's never really worked out for him. And it's already looking like it's going to be a tough task with Jardier and Leon both sitting there right on his gearbox. And of course we know that Dalking has had some issues with mistakes happening earlier in the season as well, whereas Jardier especially, he's sort of the king of just not making any mistakes, being very, very consistently fast. So Dalking needs to not to make too many more of those mistakes under braking for turn 1 as we saw in the previous lap. And it's again a little bit deep, but I think he's just recovered it in time. Yeah,
he's breaking the 5 meters or so a little bit too late for turn 2. But yeah, he's managing to recover well and hold the position for now. Should probably stop talking about Dalking quite so much. Oh, Leon the sick one is very, very wide there, coming through the exit of turn 4. That's going to cost him some momentum. May potentially even get a slowdown warning for that, having to give up some time in order to avoid getting a time penalty. A few guys have actually picked up time penalties already, so let's have a quick look at that. Gamasuki has got 2 seconds. 8 the Ace has got 1 second so far. Zal also has just the 1 second penalty. CJB and Mr. Van Omen both have 2 second time penalties as well. It looks like Leon the sick one, I believe, has managed to escape picking up a time penalty, so that's fortunate for him, and obviously he can get his head down and focus on the 2 guys in front and try to close that gap back up to the rear of Jardier.
Certainly. And just looking, I think there was another car in the pit recently. To Desert Pack has made it nearly half the field now. It's actually been through the pit lane. So it's sort of a two-way field at the moment. So the half that haven't pitted and the half that have pitted. Speaking of which, CJB, the lead pitter so far, has already gotten himself ahead of Andrex. Of course, is sort of not really in the race, running that Ferrari and testing out some bits and pieces. That's another Ferrari actually in the pits. That is Andrex. Speaking of which, Mr. Van Ammen is going to go past him and won't have to worry about that. Mr. Van Ommen running about 4 seconds behind CJB, who was 4th when he pitted, very close to the top 3. So Van Ommen in potentially as well for a solid result in this race, but back up towards the front is still very, very close, especially between Dalking and Jardier. Leon having dropped a little bit off the back of them after that mistake earlier on. But Jardier actually forcing Dalking to go defensive, or was that just Dalking's normal line? We'll have to wait and see. Certainly giving Dalking a very poor exit out of the corkscrew. He's managing to hold on to it for now with that tight entry sort of blocking the racing line, giving Jardier no chance to get past him. But Dalking seemingly struggling at the moment relative to the car chasing him. Jardier tried to outbrake him on the outside in the final corner, trying to go for a cutback maneuver, but Dalking parking his car on the apex, no way through for the lemon Lambo behind him. But certainly Jardier is putting all sorts of pressure on early on in this race, does not want to remain particularly patient, and again trying to outbrake him on the outside. This is all bringing Leon back into it, of course. He's now side by side with his championship rival Jardier with the inside line. Jardier's kind of attacking and defending all at the same time at the moment, but it's all staying in the same position as it were. Leon going for the inside move. Oh, he just brakes early enough to not clatter into the side of Jardier, who leaves the right amount of room there as well. Aggressive but fair defending from the lemon Lambo, and this certainly is turning into a very, very exciting three-way fight.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting, because obviously this Dalking and Jardier battle that we just experienced in the last lap has played very nicely into Leon's hands to bring him right back up onto the rear of these two guys. And if he's able to apply the pressure onto Jardier as Jardier is trying to attack Dalking, obviously seeing Dalking struggling a little bit, it could potentially force an error from Jardier at some point. Obviously Jardier is going to be focusing and trying to keep a level head. One thing that I was also keeping an eye on was Mr. Van Ommen's pace over the last couple of laps. A couple of laps ago he was quicker than the top 3, but obviously with these guys battling and Leon sticking his nose down the inside of Jardier into that final turn,
I think it's just trying to scare him and trying to force him into a mistake, as you said, because that's all Leon really can do at this point.
Yeah, but just quickly with Mr. Van Ommen, he was, faster than these 3 guys in front. Obviously he made that earlier stop. Once these guys actually come to the pits, he could potentially be in there with the chance of actually nicking the lead from these 3 drivers, especially if they keep squibbling like they are currently. Yeah. The guys fighting for every little inch of track that they can possibly get. And Leon, as we say, is there right on the back of Jardier, trying to... Oh! No! He's spun it. He's just clipped the tyre barrier there. It's going to take
a while to get turned around.
Yep, he's got it. Oh dear, he caught the barrier again. That's going to potentially add a little bit of damage, but that's very, very unfortunate for Leon. That's gone and freed up a lot of pressure off of Jardier's shoulders, that's for sure.
Well, that could potentially be the championship deciding moment. Of course, Jardier was in the driving seat anyway. With his position he's holding, he would win the championship regardless of what Leon does in this race. But of course, Leon basically has to win to have any sort of chance, and still hope for Jardier to make a mistake. Now, it was Leon who made the mistake first, unfortunately for him, and that is gonna ease a lot of pressure on Jardier, and certainly make him feel even more confident, as if he wasn't confident already coming into this race, that he will be a 3-time champion. Of course, a lot of things can happen. Suddenly someone gets disconnected. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But Jardier now is looking very, very good for that 3rd consecutive title, as ADAce is actually going past Nagrom on the main straight, which looked very easy indeed. Nagrom either lifted, just wanted him through, or had a slowdown. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, quite possibly a slowdown penalty. But yeah, I think Jardier now seeing that Leon has disappeared from the rear of his car, and Leon's actually in the pits. Seems like a relatively quick stop. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, no, it doesn't seem like it was too much of a quick stop, as obviously he's now dropped behind 2 desert packings down in 17th. Running too wide out there just to make sure that you do avoid getting a penalty. But yeah, rejoining the track in 17th after that spin. Hopefully he didn't pick up too much damage, and hopefully he can continue to press on. But yeah, Jardier, now with that pressure gone, can take things a little bit easier. Obviously it'd be nice for him to try and get the win in the final race of the season, just to steal the championship, but he's a pretty friendly bloke, and he knows that Dalking is probably looking for the race win here, so he's probably going to try and sit with him, not really pressure him too much, but be there just in case Dalking does make a substantial mistake, just to take that first position away.
Yeah, I think Jadier always wants to finish in the best possible position. He always enjoys a battle, so I'm sure he won't give up on the race win, despite not having to take any risks. But yeah, we will either wait and see something for the championship. Jadier is in a comfortable position now. Senagram is trying to get back at the ace. We had to let through earlier on. 2 Lamborghinis. It's a lot of Lamborghinis. It'll be interesting to see for next season if it'll stay like that. Certainly with the discussions about whether the Ferraris do a return as well. Certainly, I've enjoyed all the Lambos on the grid this season. I'm not going to complain at all. But yeah, it's always like this. That when there's one car that has been driven by a lot of the guys up at the front of the field, there are these questions always coming up. Is that car a little bit too good at the moment? I think we had the same with the Audi, which had a lot of cars on the grid season 9, and of course season 8 being the Ferrari season as well.
Yep, we had exactly the same thing in Project Cars 1 as well, where the Aston Martin V12 Vantage was the go-to car for Aston Martin. Yeah, then there was the BMW M3, which was theoretically a GT2 car that was BOP back to GT3 level. Yeah, there's all sorts of cars that were chopping and changing around the go-to meta, as it were, as to which one is the quickest. I imagine we'll probably see a number of people pick up the Lamborghini for next season after a very successful and popular running this time round. But I imagine the faster guys will probably have a look to see what other cars are quick, especially if the Ferrari does come back. I imagine that will be quite a popular car as well. But just looking at the pace of the Ferraris, obviously Zal's got himself up into 10th place. He's right on the back of Rodders there as well. Lap times seem okay, but doesn't really seem anything too threatening to the top front end Lamborghini pace.
Yeah, of course, all the Ferraris were forced to start at the back of the field for this one, with Ferrari not technically being an allowed car this season. They're basically here to test it and check the pace out of the Ferrari. Amidst discussion that it might maybe return. But Zal, of course, is trying to make his way through the field. He's got a Mercedes ahead of him. He's got a Lamborghini behind him. So,
TJB.
TJB indeed, yeah, and that's what someone certainly to test pace against. He's one of the fastest guys, and he's just letting it go through, actually. I think with him being a test driver for this race, doesn't want to get too involved and hold people up any substantial amount. So CJB is working his way back through then. The lead Petter still. He's 3 seconds now ahead of Mr. Van Ommen, which means Mr. Van Ommen actually has gained a second in him since we looked at them earlier on. And gotta wonder whether CJB has actually gained on this. He's about 25 seconds off of Dalking in the lead. I can't remember really what he was when he pitted. Jorge, I don't know if
he was in 4th position, just behind Leon Jardier and Dalking when the 3 of them were running up there. They were all very, very close, within roughly about a second and a half. I'm not entirely sure how long the pit stop is. I think it's probably around 25 to 30 seconds. So I think he's right in and around there, but the lap times that he's doing at the moment are about half a second slower than the guys running out and clear air in front. So yeah, once he gets through this traffic and gets a little bit of clear air, that's when he can really start to pile in laps, and we'll see just whether he does have the pace to be running at the front of the field.
Yeah, I mean, CJB really could have done with that battle between Dalkin, Jardier and Leon carrying on like he was for a few laps there, a little bit longer, because that's probably when he would have been having a clear advantage on pace, as long as he doesn't get held up, of course, by traffic, as he might be a little bit now with Rodders. As oh my goodness me! Jardier into the lead of the race, and there's been contact, and Jardier's gone wide. Dalking backing off though. He realised that was probably his fault, and lets Jardier stay in the lead of the race. But somehow, I assume through the first corner, as we've seen Dalking make a few tiny mistakes on the brakes earlier in the race, and that's probably where Jardier managed to slip his car through. as they were very close coming into the next few corners after that. And frustrating then for Dalking, has lost another lead of a race in Season 11. And Jadier back to his usual spot, and now will Jadier have the pace to pull away from Dalking, or will Dalking recover? I mean, he's been looking quite loose and unstable for a few laps now, not seeming to have quite being quite as comfortable in his car as what Jadier is. Let's see if what he's got left, and if he's able to hang on to the back of the lemon number.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's any damage to the front of his car. Can't really see any damage to the front of Dalking's. As far as I know, there isn't any damage to the rear of Jadier's car, so I think both of them may be okay there. We are losing a whole bunch of people.
Oh, we're down to 16.
Very quickly. Yes, that was quite a substantial chunk of people
some
very quickly.
Disconnection issues. CJB is one of the guys who have dropped out, unfortunately, which means we're never going to get an answer as to whether he would gain with his early pit-up strategy. Sven Amman still running in the race. Let's see, Leon still going down in 12th now, having clearly gained some positions, as that's a Ferrari off into the gravel. That would be Andrex, a lap down, and having some issues. Based on that, you wouldn't say the Ferrari is particularly OP.
No, I think that was a mass disconnect. We could potentially be seeing a lobby restart, as we're yet to make the 50% mark in the race. Obviously, the guys are still going at the moment, as far as we can tell. But I imagine fairly soon we may get word as to what may be happening, whether there's going to be a restart of the race happening or whether we are continuing on. But Dalking will be making his pit stop in the meantime.
Yeah, I believe technically, as per the rules, the disconnection
should be
needs to affect like half the grid, shouldn't it?
I believe there's more than 4 people within 30 seconds counts as a mass disconnect.
Oh, even during the race?
Yes.
Okay.
Which then would warrant a restart of the race, providing that less than 50% of the race has been completed. If it goes over 50%, then the guys get half points.
Indeed, yeah. We'll have to wait and see then. Shooter is somebody in the Discord chat with all the drivers and deciding what's going to go on as the coordinators. Dalking just thrown his car to the gravel, which probably means we are going for a lobby restart, and that is unfortunate, I guess, for everyone. That means what has happened in the race so far has not got particularly much bearing, but I cannot remember, will the restart be with all the way from qualifying, or will there be a restart with the current positions and a shorter race? I
believe... I'm not entirely sure.
We'll have to double check.
The interesting thing is...
The rules have clearly changed since I wrote them up back in the day.
Yeah, it has swapped around a little bit. We're seeing more people leave now, so I think you are correct. I thought for a moment it was just Dalking disconnecting, but we've just lost a few more drivers as well, so we're now down to 11.
Yeah.
So the track is going to be looking very, very empty up on your track map, so I'll get rid of that now. You do not need that, but yeah, the driver's still going, so Jadier is now lifted and crawling, so yeah.
A little bit of time to organise and making sure everyone gets a message. Of course, mass disconnections can happen. It's quite unfortunate that it had to happen for the final race of the season. We've been able to, avoid it for the whole season so far, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I was going to say we've been pretty good so far this season in terms of disconnects. Obviously, some drivers have the odd one here or there in various races, but we haven't had a mass disconnect this season. So first time in the in the final race.
Indeed. So let's see then what the word would be from the coordinators. As surely the rest of the drivers should be stopping, because we're now lost over half of the field. Jadier Still out there. Leon's still pushing like mad, but there was another car slowing down. Jarder's just cruising at the moment. So, I mean, we clearly can't finish a race with 8 drivers. That wouldn't quite work. And
no,
we're not on the
we've now got seven drivers, yeah, so I think the guys are restarting the lobby.
It's a last man standing race at the moment. Who will be the last one in the lobby? The last one wins.
Well, I think Leon's just still going just to try and keep the flow there. Obviously, a lot of the guys have just backed off and kind of stopped. And, yeah, all the adrenaline just rushed
Leon's
in the lead!
Woo!
Yeah, but yeah, we're going to be restarting the lobby. It'll be interesting to see how the coordinators are going to handle this one, and whether it is going to be by qualifying results or by the positions of the drivers at the time in the race, or what is happening. I haven't received any word yet from any of the drivers. I don't know if you have, Fisi?
Do not believe so. So, I think maybe it's an idea for you to jump down to the driver chat and just ask what is going on.
I shall do that, so be right back.
In the meantime, we can just enjoy this green Lambo of Leon charging his way. I mean, at this point, he's basically just getting some more practice laps for the restart, I guess. Just trying to keep his rhythm up. But it'll be interesting to see what will happen. It's not very often that we have to call a mass disconnection, so every time it's like having to remember exactly how the process works in terms of working out the restart. We will see, Delta. I thought, well, certainly back in the olden days of the GT3 Leagues, when I wrote up the rules for Season 1 many a year ago, I believe it was going to be a restart of the whole race upon a mass disconnection. However, as I'm sitting here right now, it would certainly make more sense to sort of restart it in the race order as it was at the start of the you know, when people started disconnecting, and just take some laps off the race, just however many laps were left in the race. I mean, that certainly seems to be the common sense way. When I wrote the rules back then, you know, I basically copied some stuff over from the F1, the leagues and the F1 games, where you cannot you cannot select sort of the length of the race. You have very little options, whereas of course in Project Cars you can choose the exact amount of laps you want to do. So yeah, we will see. But then again as well, you know, some drivers will have pitted, some drivers hadn't pitted yet, so how is that going to affect things? You know, based on that, you maybe would think that you have to go from the start of the race, or just cancel out everyone's pit stop and say, you know, no one has to pit, or everyone has to pit again in the new race. We will have to wait and see for Yorkie's word when he comes back and with more information. Leon's still just driving around. Would have been nice with a nice smooth end to the season, but oh, what did I just see a car upside down? I think I just saw a car upside down coming out of turn 6 there. Very interesting. That would of course be Tapek, because he's the only one apart from Leon remaining in this lobby. So basically now is a team lobby for Leon and Tapek. But I assume I will be getting the message quite soon to get myself out of this lobby. And Stefan saying it seems like all the PC lobbies had a mouse disconnect. So yeah, it seems potentially a Steam issue then. I would say if you know, of course, AOR has 4 tiers of GT3 leagues for this season on the PC platform, and if all of those tiers had disconnection issues, yeah, there's clearly something going on with Steam or general service on the game. We will have to wait and see. As we're now going to leave the lobby. I'm going to get the thumbnail up on the screen, as there's nothing else particularly exciting to show at the moment. But yeah, nice to have 60 people still sitting in the chat, waiting for the action to kick back off. Feel free to, if you have any questions for me, or just any comments in general, feel free to post them in the chat and I'll respond. Basically just gonna have to be some time wasting now. I'm usually not very good at this, just talking about nothing, but we shall see. Okay, so Double Delta just checked Jadi's stream as well. Of course, Jadi in the driver chat, and will also be more updated than me right now until Yoki comes back as to what is going to happen. And apparently it's going to be a shortened race, which in my opinion makes sense, even if I think technically, as per the rules, it doesn't say anything about a shorter race in the case of multi-connection. Actually, let me have a look at this. Yeah, it really doesn't say anything. It's still the same wording. Hello, Yoki. I'm just reading the rules at the moment, and at the moment, you know, it actually says that half or more of the drivers in the session need to be disconnected for a master disconnection, and also it says that it doesn't say anything about restarting with a shortened race. But I would say that the opposite of those two things would make much more sense. So if that's what we're doing now, I'm all for it.
That is what we're doing. So yes. We're going to be doing a 30-lap race, 29 flying laps, one with the manual formation lap. There will still be a mandatory pit stop, which all drivers will have to serve, and we'll be going from qualifying positions. So the guys are going to need me to read those out. So I'll be a little bit absent for the very start of the formation lap, but once I've done that, I've got everybody in order, I'll be back up to join you for. Okay.
Sorry, did you say grid on qualifying order or race order?
Qualifying order.
Qualifying order. Yeah, I guess because some people are pitted and others not. So.
Yeah, the positions were all over the place, so it's just made it a lot easier.
Fair enough. How many laps did you say?
30 so laps. 29 plus 1 formation. Fair
enough. Yeah, I think that makes sense, and the rules should be rewritten for next season.
Yeah, we'll obviously have to look into that one. But be right back. I shall be back as soon as I can, and once we've got everything underway and rolling in.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, as Scott Vincent says, fair for everyone, as some people pitted, others didn't. So you know, it's if you did a regrid by the race order, those who pitted earlier on either would get screwed, or the ones who hadn't pitted would get screwed if they then were forced to pit while the others were not. Either way, someone would kind of get screwed. So. Yeah, on that note, I think qualifying positions does make sense, even though it does of course cancel out any mistakes that happened so far in the race. So people like Leon will of course be quite pleased about this having happened. He now gets a second chance to fight up there with Elking and Jadier. So Double Delta asking what my favorite car to drive. I don't think I can really answer you. I'm assuming you're asking about my favorite Project Cars 2 car to drive. I don't have a lot to go on there. The only really proper race I did was in a LMP2 car, and it was a long time ago. I don't really race on Project Cars 2. I do just commentate and enjoying the action from the commentary box. So. yeah. I do enjoy open wheelers though in general, on other games particularly that I drive. How hyped are we for the Rallycross Light Christmas League? Yes, of course. I guess we can promote that a little bit while we're waiting for the race restart. Yeah, I should probably get it back into the lobby as well if there is one happening. Let's see. Tier 1 end. Go. Yeah, so there will be a little mini season as we tend to have between the GT3 seasons. And this time it will be a Rallycross Light League on normal road tracks, but in the snow, which is why it's a Christmas championship to crown the AOR Snow Champion. It's going to be a 4-week league. The sign-ups are open now on the AOR forums, so anyone looking for some Rallycross action on road tracks in the snow, if that piques any of your interests, that's something you can join in on in the break between the GT3 seasons. I believe the season for that starts in a couple of weeks. Lasts for 4 weeks even. Before then, the season 12 of the GT3 leagues should be back up and running after that. So I can report that we are now back in the new race lobby. 21 drivers ready for the restart. It's going to be a restart of of 30 laps after that mass disconnection that we just had. It was originally a 44 lap race, taking 14 off that to sort of save some time because we've already been here for a while tonight. And the regrid will be done with qualifying orders. It's basically just going to be a new race with the same qualifying grid and then less laps in the race. Basically, anything that happened so far was just a bit of a test. That's what's gonna happen, of course. Disconnections is just it's the most annoying thing of online racing and online gaming in general. Disconnections, yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do when it happens. You know, you can have the best internet and suddenly things just fail. And of course, this time it would seem that it was some kind of Steam issue, presumably considering the 3 other PC AOR tiers also had similar issues at the same time. But we shall get another race going. Yorkie currently down with the drivers to call out the grid for this re-race. But nothing can happen yet, as everyone's currently just loading in to the session. I don't know, maybe they have to reapply setups and stuff. I can't exactly remember how this works from a driver's perspective, I have to admit. Yeah, exactly, Double Delta. That was the warm-up race you just witnessed, so at least it was quite enjoyable, you know. And people like Leon, who made a mistake in that race, and Dalking as well, they will know not to do that again, hopefully. And maybe that 3-way fight at the front can carry on all the way to the end, and it'll be interesting as well. Actually, we'll have to see if, with the shorter race distance, I assume there will still be a mandatory pit stop as normal. So will those guys who did an early pit stop choose a different route this time around? Is another interesting question. As my voice is starting to go a little bit, you have to excuse me. Just coming off a massive flu a week or so ago, which wasn't too pleasant for my voice, so trying to not ruin it completely with too much screaming and loud speaking at the moment. But we'll see. I'm sure there'll be moments in this 30 lap race now that will cause me to scream frantically, as we might have another issue actually, because people are dropping out from the lobby again. Whatever that is he was, I have no idea. Well, let's go back to the graphic. At least that graphic is pretty nice, right? I made it all myself. Let's hope that was just sort of an issue with the lobby setting or something, or and that not, you know, there's still disconnection issues causing causing people to drop out again in the second lobby. Seems like we might have had another disconnection straight from the off in the new lobby, which means that God, I do hope that we will not have to cancel this race. I'm sure they'll try again to get the new lobby up. Potentially could be a rerun as well, of course, if we can't get the race going tonight. It has happened before in AOR leagues that leagues have gotten postponed, which I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It just means you'll have one more week next week to enjoy the action. But now that I'm here anyway, I kind of would like to see a full race. Let's see if we can get something going. Hopefully Orky will pop back up to the commentary box as well soon and sort of let me know what was going on there. Anyway, I'm still reading the chat, so if you have anything cool to say, just let me know. Yeah, just getting confirmation as well from Stefan. The next week is reserved for any potential reruns that the leagues will need to run because of issues like this. So that is a potential option. But we will try to get the race going once again for a third time. Drivers are back in the lobby. Fingers crossed that it works out and that we can get another race going, Yoki. What's the
yeah,
status?
we're restarting the lobby. Jardier didn't press ready on the start, so he was dropped from the gear. Dropped from.
Oh dear. Well, that would be a way to lose a championship.
Yeah, it was. So we've restarted the lobby. You should be able to find it relatively.
Yeah, I'm back in.
Cool. Right, I'll go sort the guys.
What is my favorite track to drive? Ooh. Well, I was crazy back in the day. I used to love driving Monaco. Then I got old and I started getting scared of things, which means I'm now scared of the walls. So I think you have to go with a sort of general answer, which many people will probably say, which is Spa. I love Spa. Also the tracks like Suzuka, it's fun to drive. Sometimes more small twisty circuits like Donington, for example, can be good as well. David Heavy going back into Gyro's stream to laugh at him, fair enough. Well, let's hope that everyone presses ready this time around so we can get the race going. It's good news at least that there was not, I believe, then a disconnection issue the second time around. Which hopefully means that the race will go ahead now for the final 21 laps as it now is in this race, apparently. So we'll shorten a little bit further as a result of the time that it's taken to get this organized. Stefan's favorite track is Bathurst, and I respect that, but also I completely disagree. I'm doing my fair share of Bathurst, and I've had my fair share of clashes with the wall going down the hill. Oh, no worries, David. I'm glad to hear that. I'm not even English, but I apparently have my way with names. Ah, Paul Ricard double delta. Yeah, that's certainly the opposite of Monaco in terms of the walls being close. Well, to be honest, I kind of like the walls on tracks just for the sake that you can't cut corners then, you know? You can try to break the rules, you get penalized with damage. But anyway, we are now then underway for a third attempt of the formation lap. Cars coming off the grid spot to go back into the order of the qualifying, as York is currently calling out the grid, so he's too busy then to change the camera away from Gamisuke, who we're currently watching. As actually it says Dalking has already got some kind of penalty in this race. But considering that was something that must have happened already at the start there, you would expect that to be removed afterwards. So I don't really see what Dalking could have done to warrant a penalty before the race, before the formation lap has even properly started. Yeah, so Dalking picked up a jump start penalty, but surely that will get removed after the race. I'm not sure how many seconds jump start penalty gives you exactly. There's no such things as stop-go penalties on this, right? It's not like on the F1 games where Dalking, if he picks up a stop-go, will get held up for ages in the pits when it now goes in to make his mandatory start. Yes, that would have been problematic.
Hello, I am back.
Hello, Yoki! So Dalking has picked up a jump start penalty, but I assume that'll get removed, right?
Yeah, we'll remove that one at the end of the race. As I'm guessing he just jumped the start, so that's 20-second penalty that he had, so remember that one. Yep. But yeah, it's going to be 25-lap race this time. They still have to do their mandatory pit stop. We're in qualifying order. We're all good to go. Fingers crossed that we encounter no other issues, and we have a stellar 25 laps.
Indeed. I've kind of ruined my voice just from talking throughout this break, but so I'll have to ask you to do everything now. But hopefully we will be in for a cracker of a final 25 laps of the season. A second start of the final round of season 11 here at Laguna Seca. A shortened race because of a previous mass disconnection, but we are back then in qualifying order. Leon's second attempt to try and stay ahead of Jadira at the start. Let's see what he can do now as Dalking puts his foot down to start the race once again, and it looks like it's going to be a similar story. Jadira with a good reaction to Dalking, potentially just Leon being fair to him, and just, oh my goodness, as Leon actually turns into the back, slightly off Jadira, and CJB is having a big spin and in front of a lot of the cars. And that is a huge pile up as CJB got loose and spun across the track in front of the pack, and that has spread things out much more than we saw at the start of the first race tonight. It was all clean then, and it was all a bit of a mess now behind Leon. It was Leon that sort of turned in a little bit into the back of Jadira, ended up with CJB having to back off, getting into a spin and spinning completely the wrong way, unfortunately, in front of the whole pack. And that's going to cost a lot of drivers probably some damage, and CJB, of course, has dropped actually out of the lobby.
Yeah, I imagine he probably picked up quite a fair amount of damage, as I think he got hit by a whole number of cars in that quite big pile-up there down at the Andretti hairpin. Back up at the front, though. Fortune of Dow King, Jardier, Leon and Benazili pulling away from Dacuza in 5th place, as Leon, the sick one, is diving into the pits already. Now, this is interesting. So this will be a good way of keeping an eye on how long the guys, or how long a pit stop actually takes. Obviously, Leon wanting to get out the way of possibly everyone and every other thing, as I imagine a lot of the other drivers going to be pitting. So yep. Leon's taken proper advantage of this situation here, because he's going to have a very nice big healthy gap between him and 2 Desert Pack. A number of the other drivers who are ahead probably may want to pit in the next couple of laps as well. So he's got a nice big bit of clear air to run his own pace and potentially leapfrog the guys of Dow King and Jade, who were in front of him.
Certainly, yeah. It'll be interesting. It was CJB that pulled it off while in that lead pack in the first race tonight, and now it's Leon that will try that strategy. Of course, helped by a lot of other drivers getting into the pits as well, which means less traffic for Leon to get throughout this race. With JK, Nagrom, Dacuza, Villalobos, Gabisuke, Mr. Venom and ADAs all also going to the pit lane at the end of the first lap here. Leon, the sick one, a whole 8 seconds ahead of the next man behind him, who's been through the pits. As we are watching Jardier, who is over a second behind Dalking, a little bit further back than he was at this stage in the first race. But of course, no pressure on him. The championship permutations, just to remind everyone of that, Jardier only needs to finish in the top 7 to guarantee himself the championship and to become a 3-time champion in the league. And that is, of course, depending on also Leon, the sick one, winning the race, who's the only man who can challenge him. As now 2 more cars into the pit lane. Shooter coming in from 10th place, to Desert Pack as well going in. So it's already again going to be a split, with half the field having pitted, half the field staying out there. And look at this whole train of cars that are sort of the remainder of the field that have yet to be through the pits.
Yep, I'm just keeping an eye on Leon at the moment. Obviously, yes, this is out lap, so his lap time isn't representative. He lost about 19 to 20 seconds in the pit lane, so relatively short pit lane and a pit stop here at Laguna Seca. So that is the gap that we're going to need to keep an eye on. At the moment, Leon is around 22 seconds, so he's lost a couple of seconds over the course of the last lap. But one thing we've also noticed, the difference between this particular run of the final round here in comparison to what we had on the previous one, we've got a McLaren with Zhao. He's dropped the Ferrari and he's gone for the 650S. Andrex has also dropped the Ferrari as well, and he's gone for the Renault RS01 GT3 car and is racing that in this. So a little bit of a mix-up with a number of drivers here picking slightly different cars to what they were running the previous time.
Well, look, they had enough of the Ferrari testing and probably just a situation of not really getting to be fighting too hard. Now they're in a proper car that is allowed technically for this season, and they're then allowed to get into whatever fights they want throughout the field without getting in anyone's well, they can get in anyone's way actually, because there's no obligation to get out of the way now, as that was
2 Desert Pack going into the pits for a second time. Yes.
Why would he do that?
I am not entirely sure. Interestingly, Dow King's previous lap time was a 25.4. He must have picked up a penalty. He's got a 2-second penalty from a cut track somewhere along the line. So 2 seconds he has tied to his name in time penalties at the moment. We're ignoring the 20-second time penalty that he has, which would have been from probably jumping the start. And we were trying to... Whoa, that was very, very sideways and wiggly there from Dow King as he ran a little bit wide, picking up a little bit of gravel. But he's managed to hold on to that one. But yeah, 20-second penalty we're ignoring because yeah, light jump start when trying to reform up in the correct order. But 2 Desert Pack coming out of the pits in last place after pitting for a second time, possibly
and
not
you can
having
see the
enough
leaders
fuel.
actually behind him as well. So
Yeah.
he's nearly lapped already. Of course, those guys have to pit still, as Andrix also goes through the pit lane. But yeah, it's going to be a lonely race, you would think, for the Desert unfortunately for him in the final round. And Andrix going to the pits, but it means that now only the top 6 are remaining in terms of having to do their mandatory pits up. Leon the sequel though, only 5 seconds already behind this train here actually, which is Scott in a bit of a sandwich between Tapek and Zal, and Scott actually going for a move. He doesn't like to be that filling of the sandwich actually. He's going to go for trying to squeeze that massive Bentley on the outside of turn 5, and he does it, carrying the momentum around the outside. Tapek losing speed on the inside, under pressure now as well from from the McLaren of Zal, who's in the gravel. It's such a tricky corner, that fast left-hander to go side by side, and there just wasn't enough room for Zal to stay on the circuit, unfortunately. That means he's lost out in that particular battle, and will be under pressure from Leon the sick one very, very soon.
Yeah, it's just not a corner that you can really go side by side with someone else, so it was a little bit of ambitious from Zal to go around the outside, as there's a little brake marker board there on the track that someone has knocked, but Leon the sick one closing right up towards the rear of him. Obviously Scott managing to make a very nice move on Leon the sick one's teammate Tapek. So Leon putting in another solid lap time, slightly quicker than the leaders, so he's trying to close that back down, but obviously with this traffic that's immediately here in front of him, his progress could potentially be hampered a little bit. Zal does the right thing though, moves very nicely out of his way and does very little to interfere with this lap that Leon will be setting, and hopefully he'll be pushing hard to try and close this gap and give himself the best potential chance to get the lead, as Dow King is coming under threat from Jardier coming into the corkscrew.
Indeed. Jardier putting the pressure on, just like we saw in the first race run. And Dalking that time didn't make a mistake, off camera, mind you. Hopefully, if we does the same again, we'll catch it and see how the overtake happens. But at the moment, Dalking doing his best to keep the reigning champion and most likely the season champion once again, Jardier, at bay. He was struggling a little bit under braking into the first corner earlier on, and once again, look at that late braking from Jardier. That just means a later turn in as well, as long as Dalkin keeps with the racing line there. That is a job done. Going defensive though into the medium speed right-hander, and again just defending every single corner at the moment. Jardier just getting better exit, better traction, carrying more speed down the straights at the moment. And now looking to the outside, this is where Scott in that Bentley made the move on Tapek earlier on. Jardier cannot quite do the same. Dalking carrying much more speed and sticking to that racing line, which means they'll avoid having to be side by side through here, which is probably good for both of them. And a little bit less pressure this time from Dalking into the corkscrew, but it's going to be a long 18 remaining laps, as he has a huge slide actually into the corkscrew, and that is the last place you want to slide your car.
Yeah, Dalking seems to really be struggling under braking, locking up the tyres potentially a little bit. Perhaps got his brake bias a little bit too far rearwards, but this is playing very, very nicely into Leon's hands. This squabble here at the front for the lead of the race. Let's check out what the lap times of these two front runners are going to be this time coming across the line. Both up in the low 23s. Leon is doing 22s, or very low 22s, so potentially gaining a good second to a second and a half here, maybe even more on this lap alone. He's going to be coming out of the final turn now to set his lap. Jardier is pressurizing Dalking once again as Dalking's going defensive, coming through turn 3 now into the slightly faster turn 4 as Dalking is getting very sideways. Very nicely held, going immediately defensive to block the inside line, forcing Jardier to go around the outside into this long-handed sweeper. This could be interesting, but Dalking is going to have to concede the position. Jardier has gone and got himself up into the lead, and Leon's previous lap was a low 22, 1 second quicker than the two guys who are currently on screen that we're watching now.
Wow, what a move there from Jardier, and this time I actually saw how it happened. Round the outside of turn 5 that would be, Fantastic stuff for him. Dalkin clearly tried his very best to hang on. They got so close together, the two cars on corner exit, but Jadier just had that nose ahead, had the drive that he needed to make the move stick, and that is another move into the lead for the champion, as I think Jadier's main rival now is indeed this man, Leon the Sick One, who is trying to make his way through that Bentley with such a wide car. It's certainly going to hold him up through these final few corners, even if Leon is a lot faster. Scott has no obligation to get out of the way, of course. He is racing 4th position at the moment, of course, Leon having made that pit stop already in this race. Leon losing a little bit of time, just under 20 seconds off Jadier in the lead of this race. But you do think that his pit stop is a little bit more than 20 seconds, actually. But let's see, it's crucial for Leon to make the move as quickly as possible. And there we go, braking much later, maybe too late, actually, on Scott. Still on the outside, though, still just recovered the nose of his car in time to get the turn in he needed to stay ahead. Just about there, and Leon the Sick One now finally has some clear air ahead of him. In fact, he's caught 15 seconds of clear air ahead of him, which certainly will be enough for him to push on and try and, if not be faster than Jadier, at least try and match him so that they'll be close together. And maybe Leon even ahead when Jadier makes his pit stop.
Yeah, Leon, I think, was probably hoping that Scott was going to be a little bit more forgiving with giving up the pass. Obviously, Scott not wanting to lose too much time. He didn't exactly like fight him heavily or really hard. Just Leon braking a little bit later into turn 2. The Andretti hairpin ran a little bit deep, which kind of brought Scott back in within close proximity. So jumping back up to the front, with Jadier now dropping into the 21s, Dalkin right there on his tail with 22.0. Interesting to see what Leon would do on this lap this time round. He'll probably be in around the mid-22s, I would have thought, with his slight mistake going into that first turn. Wow, it's a low 22 in fact, so if he did manage to make the apexes in through turn 2, imagine what his lap time could have been. But yeah, Leon's obviously going to be pushing hard to try and close the gap. Benazili staying in a comfortable 3rd with quite a bit of free air around him.
Running decent pace, to be fair to him. 4 and a bit seconds off the front 2. Looking for another solid result this season, sitting 5th in the championship. Cannot really change. Dakusa, the only man who could potentially take that from him. But there is a gap there of 30 points, so you'd think that Benazili is that covered, especially if he carries on like he is at the moment. On for net 4th place.
Maybe.
Yeah.
How many points would he score for? Well, no, he's 4th place in the race. How many points would he score if he gets 4th in the race? Do you remember?
Oh, actually, yes. Suomi is 4th in the championship, only 15 ahead of Benazili.
He's not present here at the race,
and he's not here. Yeah, so he would get 33 points. That is definitely more than what he needs. So yeah, Benazili actually looking at a 4th place championship finish with a solid result there, which is very impressive in his debut season.
Yeah, that's a very solid result. Someone who will probably be a little bit disappointed, a little bit disheartened about how this race is going so far is Villalobos. Just saw these two guys, Nagrom and Touring, side by side coming into the final turn. But yeah, Villalobos was obviously looking very, very strong in the first run of this round, doing quite decently, and then unfortunately he got caught up with the rather large pile-up that we had here in turn 2 on the first flying lap. Obviously, as you can see, there's a little bit of damage to the front of his car. He has made his pit stop, and I imagine that he has actually got that repaired, but yeah, he's obviously a world away from where he was previously, so I feel a little bit sorry there for Villalobos, as he was looking rather strong, and now Touring is having to go defensive. He's actually having to completely back out to avoid getting a track penalty, and he is backed out so hard that he's left the lobby.
He backed out so hard that he's just completely disappeared from the racetrack. Another disconnection potentially for him, or some other issue. But yeah, shame then for Team Touring. Let's see. I mean, he's obviously doesn't matter too much in terms of the championship for him. He's only done 1 race this season in this league. I believe he was in Tier 2, wasn't See?
Quite potentially. I'm not entirely sure, but I've seen him in more than one race this season. I've seen him in a good 2 or 3.
It's only just one.
But he may not have scored. Yeah, may not have scored points. But something just to note. Double Delta has mentioned in the live stream chat that actually Jardé is able to see Leon on his leaderboard, so he's got an idea as to what the gap is. He's very closely monitoring that, obviously trying to set decent lap times, and he's doing so at the moment a good 0.4 of a second faster than Leon on the previous lap. But apparently Jardé thinking of basically running long and doing a late pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense, I would say, for Jardé. I mean, well, depends on his mindset in this final race, of course. I'm sure he wants to win the race, and then it makes sense to just put the lap-ins in clean air. I mean, he certainly knows that he has the pace if he needs it, and you know, the other alternative would probably put him into a battle directly with Leon for the rest of the race, which might not be good for either of them in terms of their overall result. Would be fun for us though, and I would argue that it might be more fun for the drivers. But yeah, in terms of tactically for the race, I think Jardé makes a good decision there by doing a late pit stop and taking advantage of that clear air, as we're now on board with a man who does not have any clean air. That is Nagrom, running right at the back of Lusty in the BMW M6. Running down the main straight. This is the battle for 8th position in the race. Of course, Lusty, one of the drivers that have picked up a penalty so far, so something to keep in mind. But Nagrom wanting to get through the BMW, so hopefully another little ding-dong battle in store for us there.
Yeah, so keep an eye on this one, and behind them we also have Villalobos and Scott. So Scott pitting just a couple of laps ago, not long after he got passed by Leon. Just keep an eye on those lap times of the front guys as well whilst we watch this battle at the moment. Nagrom isn't anywhere near enough to really threaten Lusty for 8th place. It's currently sat with him as Lusty dips the wheel into the grassy, gravelly sand that's out there just beyond the curb, which can obviously fetch your momentum. As Nagrom very heavy on the brakes, getting a little bit squirrely there coming into the corkscrew, but holds that quite nicely. Looks like he has closed up a car length or 2 onto the back of Lusty. He's now getting much closer through the run of turn 9 and turn 10. That's a little bit wide there. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be trying to keep the wheels on the black stuff to get the most traction. Coming out of the final turn, not really going to be quite close enough to make a move coming into the turn 2 Andretti hairpin as we come through turn 1 now, as Zal is making his pit stop in the 650S GT3.
Oh, look at that drift as well.
Yep, nice little slide there.
Yeah, it's quite a few cars running quite loose, whether that's just pushing hard or whether actually having a little bit of a loose setup. I do not know, but certainly quite a bit of drifting going on, which certainly can't help too much in terms of tyres or grip.
No, although interestingly, I was speaking with Leon the other week about setups and stuff, and they were saying that him and Jardé, Mr. Van Omen, and the guys tend to like a very loose car, as it tends to be the quickest. You basically just drive the car right on the limit all the time, and that's how they extract the pace out of their car. So it looks like a number of other drivers are probably finding similar sort of solutions to try and be that little bit quicker, but obviously in doing so, the car becomes a little bit unsafe, and if you do make a mistake, it is more likely to cost you, as Nagrom's getting very close there to the back of Lusty. I think there may have actually been contact as Lusty got pushed deep. Nagrom's lost the momentum, and Villalobos is now coming up onto the back of this fight to make it a three-way train.
Indeed. See how patient Nagrom will be. Still got very close into that final corner. Lusty a little bit deep on the brakes into turn 1. So Villalobos is right with him now as well. So it's turning into a three-way fight. Let's see if Scott can join him in a bit as well, having made his pit stop. All these guys have made their pit stops, have they?
I believe so.
I believe so. So, yep, let's see then. Nagrom pushing hard. And actually, Jardier apparently getting close to lap traffic already, which might be interesting. I wonder if... Oh, look at that! He's drifting as well. And Dalking's actually closed back up a little bit. I mean, Dalking, he certainly has the pace. Leon and Jardier has been running the relatively similar lap times recently. Leon actually a tiny bit slower than Jardier now. But Dalking's last couple of laps have been better than both of them. In the 21s, whereas Jardier and Leon's been in the 22s. Low 22s, mind. But you can see how close Dalking is. And he also seems to be another one with one of those loose, fast setups, apparently, which, of course, as you said, oh my goodness, that's not going to help, is it? That's a little bit too fast.
Slow down penalty as well, I would have thought, for going out that wide, which could potentially, if he doesn't clear the penalty like now,
yeah,
it's going to be a long one. There we go. He's trying to do it. So that's very unfortunate for him. Just a small mistake. It's going to cost him very, very dearly. Obviously, Jardier coming up to the back.
Well, it lasted, but meanwhile, yeah, Villalobos actually passed Nagrom.
Yes, he has. Up into 8th place now. So Lusty, the new generation, or newer generation BMW GT3 car in front of him. Old versus new, Z4 versus M6.
Old versus new. Let's get a vote going in the chat. Who do you think will win this battle? Old BMW versus new BMW? I think we might get the answer quite quickly, actually, because look at that. That was Lusty getting very wiggly out of the corner. Villalobos to the outside of the corkscrew. Will he dare to try and break him? He's actually turned into him a little bit in the braking zone. Lusty losing a lot of speed, being forced very much onto that curb. Quite naughty from Villalobos, actually, closing that door before he was clear. And that has led as well to Nagrom getting right up to the back of Lusty, and Lusty again getting wiggly out of the penultimate corner, defending. Nagrom later on the brakes, trying to go round the outside. Can he keep up the momentum? A little bit on the curb as well, which won't help his traction. And Lusty actually, with the tighter line, has still managed to get a good amount of traction out of that corner and staying ahead of Nagrom. So Villalobos managed to get past both of these cars, and Nagrom back in the attack on the M6, as Scott as well is now getting into the mix.
Yep. All the fight we have going on here, and Nagrom seems to be struggling a little bit, it looks like, with the rear tyres. Obviously pushing hard. Scott is now there in the big mighty V8 Bentley, as Dalking has now come into the pits to make his stop in the race. So Leon, 22 seconds behind. It'll be interesting to see where Dalking comes out in relation to Leon. Will Leon be ahead, or will he be behind? As Dalking is now making his way out of the pit lane, and it looks like Leon's going to take second place.
He will indeed. So Dalking, yeah, he did lose some more time to Jardier before that pit stop. Oh, there's battles making this thing now. Scott is nearly getting alongside Nagrom as well. Oh, he's nearly pushing him through the penultimate corner. This battle for 8th place is raging on. Scott trying to get through. He's been catching up to them slowly. Look at that beautiful undercut line, and that will give him at least a little bit of car alongside on the inside line. Will that Bentley have straight line speed? Picking up a little bit of slipstream as well from the BMW, sticking to that inside line as well. It's that thing Scott should have discovered if he doesn't make a mistake in the braking. So both of them having a little bit of a wiggle on the brakes, locking the rears ever so slightly. But Scott in the Bentley makes the move stick on Nagrom. So Nagrom from going on the attack on Lusty for 6th place not too long ago. He's actually dropped down to 9th at the back of this whole pack. Must be a little bit frustrating for him. Meanwhile, Scott is looking to move up as Villalobos is pulling away from all of them, and Jardier is not waiting as long maybe as he could have. Actually, no. Yeah, well, actually, yeah, we are basically 5 laps from the end of the race, so it's flown past his second restart, of course, with a smaller amount of laps, and Benicili takes temporarily the lead of the race, which I'm sure is exciting for him. Where, though, is Leon the sick one? He's coming down the main straight, and there is Jardier. This is going to be very, very close for the net lead of the race. Jardier on the inside line, but he will have a slower, tighter line on that pit exit. Leon with more speed out of the corner, but I think Jardier might just have it, will he? Yes, he does. Jardier stays in the lead, and it's timed that to absolute perfection as Leon gets another huge wiggle on the curb. We saw him lose it on this curb here in the first race attempt tonight, and spun way down the field. Nearly did the same again, but he at least now is in the mix. I'm sure he would have loved to be ahead of Jardir once he saw the Lambo appear out of the pit lane. But Jardir has timed it to perfection, and Leon now has to make the move if he wants to beat his championship rival one final time. He might not be able, as it stands, to win the championship. Jardir is safe as long as he's in the top 7, regardless of what Leon does here. But I'm sure at least it's a fight for the race win trophy of this season. Both of these guys coming into the race with 4 race wins out of 9. One of them is going to probably make it 5 out of 10.
Yep. Yeah, an interesting one. Final 5 laps. We are going into. Someone is in the pits, is Benazili. So we'll be coming back out in 4th place. Was wondering for a second there how close he was actually going to be to Dow King. They still have. There we go. They've now swapped positions. So yeah, keeping an eye on this battle at the front. Seeing various different little notifications saying that these guys are very close to each other, so we should take a look at this. Mr. Van Orman and Shooter are coming up behind them as Nagrom is still trying to get back at Scott. They've lost a little bit of ground to Lusty up in front of them. Obviously Villalobos is now checking out and disappearing off into the distance as well. Nagrom, though, not going to be close enough, but Scott going very deep into the corners, could potentially get nose in for Nagrom, but he thinks better of it as Scott comes in and slams the door shut in his face. So Scott, although running a little bit deep there, coming into turn 2, he has managed to make the move stick, and that almost looked like Shooter was about to go round there, coming out the exit of turn 3, but he's held on to that one very nicely, but has lost the position to Mr. Van Orman.
Yes, indeed. So Van Orman trying to recover a bit of well, I say a bit of sort of honor in his season, and then I look back at his results. He actually got a race win in round 6 at Sakito. So Van Orman's had a very medium season, and then one very large up in the middle there. But yeah, Nagrom is still pushing on. Then I was expecting Scott to sort of charge after Lusty once he got through on the red Lamborghini. But instead, it's actually Nagrom looking more likely to get back at the Bentley. And Bentley making more positions there. So this could very well be a battle between these two for, let's see, for 8th place until the end of the race. And Nagrom, of course, doesn't have a penalty. Scott does. So I wonder if Nagrom will know that and maybe take it a little bit more easy. But he can't really. He doesn't really. Can't really afford to take it too easy, because Miss Van Orman's right there behind him. Shooter might even get involved if the battle gets too intense here. But it's nice to see these midfield runners giving us some action in the final few laps of the season, while well, I was going to say, well, the front guys are more spread out, and then I remember Jardir and Leon's actually 1 second apart on.
Yep. Those guys still going at it at the moment. It seems like Jardir has the upper hand. Come into the final 3 laps, but Nagrom is still there trying to pressurise Scott. You say Mr. Van Orman getting involved. To Desert Pack is pulled over to the side of the track. Well out of the way, it seems. Nagrom having a little bit of a look. Ooh, Scott getting a little bit wiggly as he goes a little bit defensive coming into the corkscrew. This could play into Nagrom's hands. And Nagrom having a pretty decent run that coming through turn 9 and into 10. Doesn't really seem like he's able to capitalise on that run though and really be able to do anything with it. He comes very close under braking that to the rear of that Bentley. He's actually very close coming out of the exit. So now is prime opportunity for him picking up the slipstream as we come up through turn 1, which is barely even a turn, and then into the heavy braking zone for turn 2. Scott, getting very close to Nagrom. Nagrom's gone deep. Mr. Van Orman has gone and taken a place away from Nagrom, but Nagrom's trying to come back at him. Mr. Van Orman shuts the door and takes that 9th position, and now it's Mr. Van Orman's turn to have a go at that Bentley as Nagrom runs very wide.
It's just all going wrong for Nagrom in all of these battles. Every time he's on the attack, he ends up losing a position instead. I kind of feel for him at the moment. At least he's fighting hard, which is fair play to him. But Mr. Van Orman now the man on the move. opportunistic to slip through a turn 1 and straight in the attack on Scott. Will he try to make the move already, getting a much better exit at turn 6 to challenge into the corkscrew? He backs out of that one. Probably a safe thing to do there, as he didn't quite have his car ahead into the braking zone for the corkscrew, and you never want to go side by side through there if you can help it. So both cars live to fight another day, and that was a lovely drift there from Van Ommen. Nicely controlled, but he's lost him a little bit of ground. Let's see then what his line will be. Bentley. The Bentley's a little bit wide actually. Van Ommen a much better run, getting a little bit of slipstream as well down the straight. Scott going to the inside. Van Ommen will have been forced to outbrake him, and he does brake very, very, very late. Locks the rear slide as he tries to slow it down, and Scott is in his way as he tried to get it back to the apex, which means that Big Bentley is still ahead, and of course Nagrom is now back into the mix again. It seems like every time two cars started battling, another one just ends up joining the action, while all two of them are slowing each other down.
Yep. Very, very heavy battling going on. Mr. Van Ommen having a look to the inside. Scott's making it very, very tight. Oh no, that's going to force Mr. Van Ommen into a mistake, and that's going to drop them way off the track. Hold it together. That's a whole bunch of positions lost.
He's gone to the beach.
He has gone to the beach. He's now rejoining the circuit, but yeah, it's now dropped him from 9th place all the way down into 12, make that 13th place as Taipak has just gone through. Jumping back up to the front as we're on the final lap of the race. Jardier is leading from Leon. About 7/10 of a second difference between the two. It's only going to be Leon's hope that Jardier either makes a humongous error or has some kind of technical difficulty for Leon to come away with the championship. Certainly seems like Jardier is the man in control of this race, providing he can keep it on track and everything goes smoothly for him. It looks like that he will probably be crowned champion for this season.
Yeah, I don't see anything that can stop him now. He has now a penalty, and he is the lead car as he comes down to the finish line here in the final round of season 11. And Jardier wins and becomes our second ever 3-time AOR GT3 champion in the PC Tier 1 League, as he takes out all the cones to celebrate. Leon the Sick One did put him under a lot of pressure in the championship fight throughout the whole season, brought the fight down to the final race, couldn't quite make it happen. But 4 wins for Leon the Sick One across the season, certainly a very, very strong effort from him. We saw Dalkin crossing the line in 3rd place. He will drop down the board because of his 20-second jump start penalty that will get removed, so he does finish the race in 3rd place on the podium. But no win this season for Dalkin, unfortunately. Benny Seeley crossed the line in 4th. JK was 5th. Then Villalobos gets 6th in the end ahead of Lusty, and then Scott wins out in that battle with Nagrom. That raged on for the final 10 or so laps. Shooter getting a nice top 10 to end the season as well. Zell in that McLaren, bringing it home for P11. Tapek, Leon's teammate, gets 12th place, as that's a McLaren jumping around, being very happy, going backwards into the wall. And that is that. The final race of the season is done, and we have another 3-time champion. It's the first one we had, F1 Master, of course, famously in season 2, 3 and 4. And now Jardier in season 9, 10 and 11.
Yep, many congratulations to Jardier for the win in the Drivers' Championship. Quite a good and interesting battle there in the in that second run. But yeah, it was unfortunate that we had the technical difficulties in the in that first race. But yeah, there are your results, and they thoroughly enjoyed this evening. Dakuza got 31 seconds penalty. Interesting.
Oh.
I imagine a lot of that will probably disappear as well as Dalking's 20-second penalty that he got for the jump start.
Yeah, don't think it'll matter too much for Dakuza. He only dropped 1 position as a result of that that one. So course, this is where I would love to show you a final updated championship standings. But we're not that fast on updating the points, unfortunately. But all we do know is Jardir has won the championship. Leon the Sick One will finish the championship in 2nd place. Dalking, he was guaranteed 3rd before we even got into this race, so he will stay there. Suomi loses his 4th place that he was holding as a result of not turning up tonight. Benny Seeley takes that away from him to finish 4th on his debut season. Very nice effort. Dakusa holds on to 6th then, I believe. Let's say, actually, let's try and work this one out. The Dakusa was 13, 8 points for him, which puts him at 142. Villalobos finished.
Dakusa did have a penalty though. Bear in mind.
But let's give him 9 points.
Villalobos was...
He was 6, wasn't he? 24 points, so that's...
That's going to be very close.
That's a 15 point difference. Which means... Oh! I think Dakusa holds on from Villalobos by 1 point. In the battle for 6th in the championship. And then ADA's probably getting 8.
He'll drop down. Because he didn't finish the race. So yeah, 8th. Mr. Van Orman.
Yeah. Oh, I think actually that spin from Mr. Van Orman might have stopped him from passing ADA's
yeah,
in the championship.
JK was 5th.
And JK was 5th indeed. You're right. So he's going to move up a bit.
Decent haul of points.
He might even move up to 8th.
Yeah. I was going to stay where he is.
Yeah. The full championship will, of course, be updated within the next few hours on the AOR forums. You never know, there might be some news inquiries as well after the race. Of course, the quite messy start of this 2nd run. Not what we would like to see, hearing that there was some lag involved as well, potentially. And yeah, of course, a shame that we had to restart the race in the first place. Disconnection issues is never something you like to see in any league race, and of course thoughts go out to those who were affected by it, and those who got caught up in that crash at the start of the race and didn't get the final race that they were hoping for. People like CJB and ADAs, and of course a few others as well. But that's what can happen, of course, sometimes, unfortunately, with racing and with the online gaming in general. But overall, I think it was an interesting race, and I think a very action-packed season once again. So, how can we sum this season up, Yoki? These 10 races.
Well, I missed 2 of them. The first one and the other one a couple of weeks ago when I was ill.
And I missed a few as well. So we can sum it up by saying that we missed some races.
We missed some races.
So we actually have no idea what's happening,
though. We had some very, very good racing. The reverse grid races I particularly enjoyed. Obviously, I missed the one that we did for Spa. That was the one that I was ill for, and I was looking forward to that because I did thoroughly enjoy Nürburgring. It was a bit chaotic. So I think, if I was to pick one word, entertaining. It seems like the obvious choice to go for, but there was the mix of everything. Good, fantastic battles throughout the season. There were some crashes, and possibly a little bit of some heated moments between a couple of drivers, but otherwise, yeah, from my perspective, very entertaining. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Indeed. So, before we close out this stream, we're going to get a few driver interviews, of course. A couple of usual suspects sitting there ready to talk to us. The 2 guys who have been fighting for the championship throughout this season. Let's bring both of them into the box. And we have to start off, I guess, with the newly crowned 3-time AOR GT3 PCT1 champion, and that is Jardir.
Hey guys, thank you!
How are you feeling after clinching your 3rd consecutive championship after so much pressure from Leon throughout the season?
I feel absolutely awesome, and I must say this was the hardest ever season ever, because Leon did amazing, and he was absolutely awesome driver to fight with. awesome guy with 5-5, as well as Dalking, as well as all the other guys. It was absolutely awesome. And I would like to just apologize to some people, because during the season I might have been a little ugly in my comments towards some drivers. And if someone take it personally, I really would like to apologize, but I hope people understand that racing is about emotion, and everything when you're driving live is all about the emotion at the moment. So sometimes people don't have to agree with something you do. And yeah, I'm just so happy, because I really, like, I knew this is gonna be a hard race, and with all the restarts and everything, I was really trying hard. And I think Leon did also, like, Leon did everything perfectly. So there was just, you know, too big gap in the points. So yeah, that's about it. I'm just happy so much for Apex Online Racing for bringing these races, because I think the competition is really, really high, especially this season with Dalking, the Heidi, Leon, Omen. Everybody else was absolutely awesome, and I'm just really happy to be here. And I'm just so glad everything worked out for me again.
Yeah, it's great to hear, and of course, I don't think anyone can argue with you being a very deserved champion once again. It was good to see, though. I guess we have to jump to the other guy as well. It was good to see you, Leon, take the fight to Jadier until, you know, bring it to the final race. How do you feel your season has gone after this one?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, after the first race, I had already lost all my motivation for racing this season. So I was just doing the races to keep racing and learning new tracks and having some nice battles. And I caught up to him slowly, race after race. I got more points, but I mean, when someone crashes you and you only have 9 races and he has 10 races, there's absolutely nothing I can do. So yeah, I'm just so sad that one guy who crashed me destroyed my entire championship, you know. So I'm not so happy for it, actually, but at least I had some nice battles, and I got to learn new tracks and improve, so I'm happy for that at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, of course. It's frustrating that that happens all the way back in round 1. Can affect the whole championship, but that's, you know, what it can be when it's so competitive, and someone like Jadier who never makes a mistake, it seems.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was driving beautiful, but I mean, I just tried so hard and I made no mistakes and did everything correct. And I hope I will give a feedback next season that maybe you do like in real life in Formula 1, you remove the worst race, because there's more people who unfortunately got crashed and maybe someone don't make a race, and then you actually can, you know, get a fair chance for a position in the championship in case someone have an unfortunate crash. So. Yeah. But congratulations to Jadier anyway for taking his 3rd championship. And also, sorry, I just wanna say, you guys are the best. You, King Kodiak, and Yorkie are done an amazing job like always, and always showing up. And Yorkie did really good as a stand-in as well. So, you guys are definitely winners.
As a stand-in?
Oh no, I'm sorry. When I raced my 2 seasons, it was Fisi and King Kodiak. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
That's fine. No. It was, yeah, I got asked by King Kodiak, I think just before the season, if I wanted to do it, and I used to commentate with Fizzy back in Project Cars 1, and I thought it'd be good to get back on it and do it again. Unfortunately, I missed the first race of the season because I had plans and commitments already in place, but it's been an awful lot of fun and commentating on you guys throughout the season. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you to you, both Jadier and Leon, and also the rest of the drivers in Tier 1 for providing such fantastic entertainment for us to both commentate on.
Thank you guys so much for commentating and doing such a great job.
No worries. I appreciate the nice words, guys. And finally, Jadier, can we get a nice little championship scream from you?
Yes!
There we go.
You probably should have done a headphones warning.
Fizzy is the best! Subscribe to Fizzy, guys! Let's go, let's go, let's go!
Do it now!
And Yorkie as well,
Awesome stuff. Well, that's gonna be it then. I think, for the final round of Season 11. I can't believe still there's been 11 seasons of this AOR GT3 League. Man, time goes past quickly. Unfortunately. Way too quickly, actually. But there will be another season coming up. Before that, there will be the AOR Snow Championship. So it's going to be a Rallycross light season for 4 weeks, starting in a couple of weeks. Sign-ups open at the moment on the AOR forums, so feel free to join in on that. It's going to be Rallycross at road tracks in snow conditions to crown the AOR Snow Champion. So that's something different to get into, to take everyone's mind off GT3 and certainly do something that I'm sure most people will not have done before, actually, in terms of AOR League racing. And then after that season ends mid-January, so I suspect that a few weeks after that there shall be season 12 of GT3 kicking off once again, and we'll do this all over again, Yoki.
Maybe. No, we will. We will definitely. I'll be here next season, raring to do some more commentating. I'm looking to get back into that, as I've been thoroughly enjoying it this season, as I've said.
Yep, good stuff. So finally, I just want to thank all of the viewers who have stuck with us. 45 of you especially who are still here at the end of the stream. Cheers for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the action. Make sure you tune in as well whenever we return with the GT3 Season 12, and of course before that there will be tons more live broadcasts on the Apex Online Racing channel, so make sure you subscribe and tune in for whatever you are interested in terms of racing. I mean, if you love racing, you should be interested in all of it. Yeah, it's been a great season. Cheers for tuning in. Thanks to all the drivers for providing the action. Thanks to Yoki for being a lovely co-commentator, and of course King Kodiak as well for the races that he did. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and we will see you for the next season. Good night.
Ciao.